how best to structure a community. And we don't see that as much in Canada. Some condominiums are really good at it because they get people in there that want to have a community and be part of a community, and they really embrace it and promote it.
Yeah.
That's something that I think more condominiums should do. Really promote the community aspect of your property. They don't have enough energy to focus on it, but I think those that do, their properties are better run.
Yeah.
Their residents are happier.
Yeah.
They have fewer problems. They know right away too when something goes wrong, right? Like if a cleaner in your world, if a cleaner isn't performing, they know about it right away. The feedback gets to the property manager right away, and then we deal with it right away, right? Whereas properties that are more lackadaisical and don't have that community spirit or atmosphere, things can go unnoticed for weeks or
Yeah.
months and sometimes even years, right? Because people don't care.
Welcome to the Mastering Property Management Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Sarbit. Join me as we delve into candid conversations with industry experts to uncover their strategies and insights for achieving success in property management. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, let's elevate your property management skills together. Hi, everybody. This is Jared Sarbit with Mastering Property Management. Today's guest is Jennifer MacFarlane with Magnum York Properties. She is the branch manager in Calgary and has a vast experience of property management. I can't wait for you guys to learn about her. I have a long-lasting relationship with Jennifer, and there's so much to learn. So to kick us off, Jennifer, first, if you could just kind of let us know what got you into property management, some of the milestones along the way, and what got you to the level of success that you have today.
Oh, for sure. So, I guess my first exposure to property management was when I took a temp job back in 1998, 99 for TELUS Mobility, managing their facilities. And I looked after their big building and some of their satellite spaces in other buildings. And I did all the moves and changes for their whole team, which was huge. It was originally designed as a temporary position. They were not sure who they were going to hire, and I filled it as a temp or as a temporary employee, and then became an employee. So I was there for a couple of years, and when they merged with ClearNet, the ClearNet had their own facilities manager, and my position became redundant. So from there, I moved to Condominium First, which was the largest condominium management company in, I think, Alberta. They had over 300 condominium clients, and that's huge. I
Mhm.
the Davies brothers, so Bob the father, Don the son, and Doug the other son, were kind of trailblazers in the condominium property management industry.
Wow.
So from there, I moved to Gateway Property Management. And after Gateway, I worked with one of the um, associates who went and got her broker's license as an independent broker. And from there, I purchased unit management. And that's where we met.
Yes. Yes, we
Yeah.
did. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, we'll get into that after. I do want to absolutely talk about how our relationship formed, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So how long did you have unit management for?
Almost 10 years.
10 years. Okay, perfect. And how many properties roughly did you guys have under your portfolio there?
Well, I started out with 9, but we went up to 25. And it was
Awesome.
25, 23 when I sold it.
Okay, great. And then today tell me a little bit about where you're at today.
Um, Through getting unit management, I got my broker's license. So it's a full real estate brokers. At the time, under RICA, you could just get your brokers, right? Like it wasn't split the way it is now. So through the years, they've kind of modified it, and you can specifically get a broker's license in the specialty that you want to specialize in. So you can get a property management broker's license, or you can get a condominium management broker's license. But the broker's license that I got back in the day is kind of like full service. So I can transact real estate, I can transact commercial real estate, rural property, residential, and property management, and condominium management, which is what I specialize in.
Yes, amazing. That's awesome. And so now with Magnum York, you're the branch manager for Calgary, but I believe other regions as well, right?
Just Calgary, kind of old or not old. Old is north. So Okotoks, we have a few properties down in Okotoks, and Canmore. So
Okay, awesome. And how long have you been with Magnum York now?
I only started in January, so not even a
Yeah.
full year yet.
Amazing. Very cool. Very cool. And so what would you say some of your like key characteristics, like qualities that you have carried on in the property management world that has got kind of gotten you to this level?
Um, I think in order to be a good property manager, you have to be a generalist, right? Like you have to be good at a lot of things. Like maybe you're not an expert in everything, but you're good at a lot of things, right? So you have to be good at communication, which I think is probably the most important thing that we do. We communicate with our boards, we communicate with the owners and residents at the properties that we manage, and we communicate with the trades that go to those properties. So it's a lot of communication. And aside from that, you do have to be reasonably well organized.
Mhm.
You have to know where everything is.
Yeah, for sure.
You do have to possess kind of a good base knowledge and intelligence to understand the things that you're doing, right? So in our jobs, we manage properties, but it's more managing people, right, than anything. Looking after the different personalities that are at play. Some board members kind of, managing those personalities or at least working with them.
Yeah.
You have to be able to understand legal. You have to be able to understand building construction. You
Mhm.
have to be able to understand, like, when you ask a trade to go out and do something, if you don't understand what they're doing, you won't know if they've done it well. So again, that sort of wide base of knowledge really comes in handy.
Totally. Because I know firsthand how you work, and we saw it. To give the listeners a little bit of history, when we first started our company, Picture Perfect Cleaning, we did a cold call to Jennifer. We had two coffee shops, and we did a cold call to Jennifer. I think it was actually Rob, your husband, that answered the phone, and we said, we're a new janitorial company looking about, and you said, sure, we have this small little condo you can quote in Inglewood, and we still have that today. Yeah, and that was our first. I don't even count the coffee shops. Those kind of our training ground, but that condo is our one of our first real properties. And I remember, from there, you gave us you saw what we did, and we spent all these hours. We had so much time on our hands, so we cleaned the place top to bottom. And you gave us a chance on another property, and that
Yeah.
was significantly larger. I think it was about 140 units or so, and we still have that one today as well. But I remember when meeting you on site and being so enamored with your knowledge of everything. And there's so much detail. I mean, from the landscaping to the interior, the drywall touch-ups, to the garage door opener, whatever it may be. You have to know so much about everything, and you're right. You have to be able to manage people.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a real skill set, that you have to have to be a good property manager, and I think you explained it really well. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
Um, so regarding like kind of on that note, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of stakeholders at play.
Yeah.
You're dealing with fostering relationships with the tenants, with the owners, with the contractors, with the board. What are the strategies that you have to foster positive, healthy communication that allows you to be successful in a property?
Um, it's probably not the first thing that's going to come to spring to people's minds, but I think you really have to have a lot of empathy,
Mm,
right? So when you deal with a condominium board, one of the first things that you have to realize is that these people bought their homes for the most part, especially when you're dealing with residential condominiums. They bought their homes or their investment properties, and they didn't know they were going to form part of the condominium board at the time they purchased it. And they are just people, right? They're not property managers, they're not asset managers. They have no idea what they're getting themselves into when they join the condo board, right?
yeah, totally.
They're probably great at what they do, right? Some are
Yeah,
lawyers, some are doctors, some are, well, you don't usually get too many doctors because those guys are busy. But there'll be people in the health industry, there'll be people in the educational industry, there'll be people that run their own businesses or that just work for whatever company they work at. And they're great at what they do. And then you just throw them into being on a board.
right.
you have to understand that your role is to help them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with the people that call us every day, right? The owners that have problems in property management, nobody's calling you because things are great. They're
Right.
calling because they have a problem with something or they're upset about something, you
Yeah.
know, on the janitorial world, they'll see a stain on the carpet or they'll see something that hasn't been cleaned for days and it irks them and it's their home, so they feel really particular about it
Yeah.
and they call. And the first thing to realize is that they're not calling to make your life miserable. They're calling because they're upset.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna fix that. Not that, not that the people that yell the loudest are supposed to get the most attention, but sometimes they do, and sometimes they're upset for a reason, and it's meritorious, and you have to deal with it.
I love that. I love that. I love the like that you're focused on empathy. Um, can that at times, if you have, because like you said, like we're in the similar business that when we hear from people, it's usually something negative, often, just because they're not happy. Um, so how do you kind of manage that personally? Hearing those complaints, I imagine that'd be a challenge and can be difficult at times. How do you kind of separate the personal side to the business side? I think that would be very valuable for property managers to hear.
Um, it's funny because the easiest people to deal with are the people that are nice about it, but unfortunately, those people are probably not the majority. Sometimes people are really upset, and then they feel as though once they get a person on the phone or via email, they've got somebody and they want to, I don't know, maybe exact some sort of justice, right?
Mm.
Like maybe they feel that we're responsible for it. And it's like, well, we hadn't caused that leak or we never personally went and caused that damage. We'll do our best to fix it, but we
Yeah.
can only fix what we know about. And again, like I know that you and I have chatted about this before, we're only as good as our vendors, right?
Yes.
So when our
Yes.
vendors go out and do a good job, that helps us out tremendously. But
Yeah.
things happen and sometimes projects don't go well. And it's always the ones where something goes wrong, then it continually goes wrong throughout the whole rest of that project. They
Right.
sort of curse to them, and you know
Yeah.
it's hard. And sometimes people do get really angry with us.
Yeah.
And they get angry about the amount of money that they have to pay, and they maybe don't see the value in it.
Mm.
It's not always apparent. What you do is explain as much to them as possible, and then try and listen with that empathetic ear. And then again, realize that they don't know who they're talking to, right? They don't know me.
Yeah.
They're just upset, and they have a person on the other end of the phone that they can talk to and get their frustrations out. And hopefully, at the end of the day, I try not to take anything personally when I go home to my family, and I just am who I am.
Yeah, no, totally. That's brilliantly said. Brilliantly said. Balancing, cost effectiveness with property maintenance is, critical. Because obviously every condo has a budget and every condo is in a different position financially. How do you, and your team prioritize upgrades and repairs to ensure the long-term value for both owners and tenants is there, while being conscious of the budget?
Yeah. In the condominium world, condo fees, right? People pay condo fees every month, and they're looking for the best value for their money, right? And in the condominium world, when a board is looking at quotes, they don't understand the difference between the vendors, right? You can have vendor A, which is outstanding and probably more expensive, and vendor B, which is middle of the road, and then vendor C, which is bottom dollar, but you will get what you pay for, right?
Yeah.
Um, they're looking at how much this is going to cost them every single time. Will their condo fees go up $5 more, or 25 more dollars? And when you commit them to a contract, price is a huge consideration.
Yeah.
But we have to represent to them that price isn't the only consideration, right? Like
Mhm.
this might cost you in terms of dollars more than what contractor C would give you, but contractor C won't give you that level of service that you're looking for, and you will constantly be unhappy, and it will cost you time and energy dealing with the complaints and the issues that arise, especially when you're dealing with something like mechanical, right? It's an easy one. You have mechanical contractors out there that are outstanding at their jobs that cost a lot of money because it takes a lot of money to pay well trained, well qualified staff. and they end up competing with mechanical companies that maybe are a little less cautious about who they hire and maybe offer lower salaries with less trained people that don't maintain their equipment well, right? And that
Hmm.
costs the board down the line, right? Because you have to replace things more.
Yeah.
Not well maintained, it will break and cause damage, right? Especially with mechanical, you're dealing with a lot of water. So if something breaks and leaks, it causes water damage and the corporation has to deal with it.
Yeah.
So price isn't the only consideration, but right now everything is so expensive. We've
Yeah.
really seen that a lot in the last couple of few years, especially since COVID hit. Um, Contractors and corporations struggled at the beginning of the pandemic, but I think the impact that we see now is costs have escalated so much that that does become a huge consideration, right? So
Makes sense. It makes
it's
sense.
rough. It's really rough out there, right? We see utility costs that are huge, and those were always a big part of our budget. But when we went through this past year with electricity and natural gas rates, the electricity was three times what it was
Wow.
previously.
Wow.
Ridiculous. And everybody pays for electricity. Like I pay for electricity in my house, but when you take your budget to the board and you say, "Oh, you guys are over budget by, 25%." That's big.
Yeah, no kidding. Holy cow. That must be really hard to bring to them. I'm sure some understand, but some just don't care and don't want to hear it. I
Well,
assume.
then they get mad because you didn't foresee that, right? Like,
Right.
oh, how did you not see
Mhm.
the rates? Nobody saw it. No,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
are making way more money than me, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you'd
Um,
have to have some pretty amazing economists on your board, I guess, to to see that.
you
Yeah.
asked me before how we deal with long-term projects and capital projects, and I would just maybe make the note here that capital projects in terms of replacing things in the building, those are always funded from your reserve fund. So in the
Okay.
condominium world, you have an operating budget, so that pays for all of your expenses that you incur day to day throughout the year, repairs and maintenance, insurance, admin, um, utilities, all that sort of thing. Contracts like landscaping and cleaning, those are all included in your operating budget.
Yeah.
But your capital components like your roof, elevators, flooring, siding, anything that's a big component of your building that needs to be substantially renewed as the life of the building, as the building ages, that's almost always funded through your reserve fund. So
Hmm.
a portion of your condo fees every month gets separated out and put into that restricted fund that is meant only for dealing with those types of projects.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. I imagine there's a fairly large education piece for the board, and the tenants, um, to really get them to buy into why they need to, whether it's spend or invest or whatever the situation is within that property. Do you find that they give you the opportunity to be educated, or when do you get those opportunities to educate them on the situations? Is at the board meetings? Is that generally where that
Yeah,
happens?
at the board meetings. I mean, luckily in our industry, there's been enough protections put in place under the act that that require condominium corporations to have a reserve fund study done. When the study is basically a document prepared by an engineer, an architect, or another qualified provider, some are certified reserve fund planners. They go through and evaluate all of the components of that building and then determine their effective age. So if you had the roof done 10 years ago and it's held up really well, maybe its effective age is only 5 years or 8 years as opposed to the 10. They set that out, they write it all down and they put it in that study for you. And then they go one step further and they kind of estimate when the end of its lifespan is. So
Hmm.
again, the roof is 8 years old and it's rated to last 25, they'll project that out in the schedule, right? And say
Right.
your roof now needs to be done in, 13 years.
Cool. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Okay.
So
Thank you
we
for
get all that like we luckily we that documentation is mandated, right? You have
that.
to
Right.
have that under the act, and then
Okay.
you provide that to your boards and go through it and explain it to them. I find out most often at budgeting time is when I can sit down and talk to them about finances, right? Because they're all hyper focused,
Right.
knowing,
Yes.
depending on what we say at this meeting, your condo fees may go up, and they may go up substantially, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not in good shape, or it hasn't been well maintained, and maybe you're a property that just came to us recently and you've got some problems.
Yeah,
chances are common fees are going to go up, and here's why,
totally.
right?
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome. Awesome. What about technology? How do you leverage technology and software to, streamline your property management process, and enhance the tenant experience? And, maybe it's a lot of it's on the back end that they don't even, see or touch. But are there any technologies that you use at Magnum York or maybe at Unit Management that have been, really helped you out?
We didn't get into it too much at unit management, right? Like I
Yeah.
was an independent brokerage and
Yeah.
very small, and we
Yeah.
used the tools that we could get like for not a lot of money because we didn't
Yeah.
have a lot of corporate backing. But
Yeah.
with Magnum York really embraces technology. The broker who owned the company, Peter Best, he's very tech savvy. In
Cool.
fact, he Rent Manager is the accounting software that we use,
Yeah.
accounting and property management, because it does more than just accounting. And he actually went into the back end of it and modified it significantly and customized it to what we need.
Wow.
So it's super effective tool for us. It has a portal, so our board members can sign into the portal and see in live time what our accounting is, right? So if three bills came in, they'll know it,
Huh.
right?
Yeah.
On their side of the portal. And
Brilliant.
only for unit owners, they can sign into their portal too and look at their account and see what charges there are and see what notes there are in their file, which is really handy. We do use a lot of programs, like a lot of technology at Magnum York. We just subscribed to a new vendor management program. So when we want quotes, we go into this program and it pushes out the request to all the vendors that are signed on to that program.
Right.
It's really easy.
Right. Yes, I think we just signed up for that
No,
exact.
right?
Yeah, good. With your advice. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a neat concept. I know that's very common, and it's been common for commercial property management, and I guess residential too. But I'm seeing it more and more that they want that third party company to kind of manage the ensuring. I guess it's vetting the vendors. Is that the idea?
Vendors is a big thing, right? So making sure they have their GST number registered, their WCB and proper insurance coverage.
Yeah,
Um, and having somebody to do that is really expensive and it takes a lot of time and energy, and smaller firms might not be able to do it. So if you can farm that out to a third party, why wouldn't you?
totally. It makes sense. Makes sense. Awesome. In a constantly evolving industry, what trends or changes do you foresee shaping the future of property management? You mentioned costs. Obviously, that's probably the forefront. If you want to talk about that or anything else that comes to mind.
um yeah, and it's funny because property management is a little bit of a recession proof industry, right? Once a building is built or a property is completed, someone's going to have to look after it.
Totally.
Um, boards aren't qualified to do it themselves, and it's a lot of work. It's a tremendous amount of work, right? So, having a licensed, qualified property management company in place for those boards and those clients that will see that's a huge value to them, right?
Yeah.
Um, it is a little bit recession proof, but like you said, cost is such a huge consideration right now.
Yeah.
Real estate in general, it's bananas, right? We have a rental division at Magnum York, and we can't keep a vacant, like we can't, there's no vacancy, right? As soon as a property comes up, it's rented within days, if not hours, of it becoming available.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
It's really hard, and I really feel for the people that are out there looking for a home because where are they going to go?
Yeah. Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah. What another guest that I'm having on is Bernadette from Home Space.
um,
And they work with people that are homeless or potentially homeless, and needing properties, and they're an amazing organization, and I'm really looking forward to my conversation with her. But yeah, I can't imagine what it's like right now. Like, costs are so high. Like I actually have a condo as a rental property.
yeah,
And I have I think she's 86-year-old lady in there, and it pains me to ask her for an increase in rent, and I did, and then she pushed back a bit and I brought it back down. So it's tough for people out there, and yeah, so yeah, I can imagine. So do you see that like calming down at any point, or like like I know like you said, like I mean you have to be an economist to probably predict that, but what's your feeling on the market?
I don't know. Like right now, I feel like we're between a rock and a hard place, right? So I know that the banks are trying to put the halt on inflation, but
Yeah,
it's squeezing the little guys. Like it's just crushing the little people, right?
yeah,
We just renewed our mortgage, right? It's $1,000 more a month.
yeah,
The interest rate, right? It's
yeah,
awful.
yeah,
Um, so what are you going to do, right? Do
yeah,
you want fewer people to be able to own homes? Then they
yeah,
have to rent somewhere, and rents are crazy right now
yeah,
because everything's more expensive. Fuel is more expensive. Food is more
yeah,
expensive. Supplies, materials, contractors,
yeah,
everything is expensive, right? So landlords and building owners that own buildings have to pay more. So
yeah,
they want more rent, right? And they have to pay their staff more because their staff can't afford to eat, right? Especially in condominiums. Rika just licensed condominium managers. I don't know, you probably have heard about that, but
mhm,
in the last
mhm,
couple of years, with the changes in the new act, the Condominium Property Act, it became its own licensed section under RICA. It's not part of property management. You can't just be a regular associate or an associate broker and manage condominiums. Now you have to have a condominium management license. It's specific and it's in addition to whatever other license you might hold.
mm.
A lot of condominium managers who were on the edge dropped out of the industry, right?
Wow.
So fewer licensed individuals to manage properties. And I'm telling you, I just have made an offer to hire a new property manager that's licensed. Getting a licensed condominium manager costs me, thousands of dollars more per year than they would have 5 years ago. So to get a properly licensed condominium manager, now you have to pay more.
Wow, no kidding. And of course you have to pass that cost on to the tenants and the owners of the properties. So
Yeah.
yeah, wow. That's tough. That's tough. Yeah. Can you as a leader, in property management, like what advice would you give aspiring property managers looking to climb the ranks and achieve, similar success to yourself?
Um, Improve your education, right? So if you have educational opportunities, take them, upgrade your license, learn more, specialize in certain things, right?
Yeah.
And keep up your customer service. That's huge, right? Having happy clients, and knowing how to keep them happy and to make sure that you're doing the best way to keep a client happy is to do what you're supposed to do, right?
Totally.
And tell them about it. That helps
Yeah.
them that
Awesome.
helps you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, always improve, always learn more. Learn as much.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like I come from the restaurant industry, as you know, before I started the janitorial company, and we always said, it's a business of a million details. But I think you could say the very same thing, if not even more, with property management. Like there's so much to learn. There's like yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So constantly educate yourself is what you're saying. Yeah,
Well,
that's
you're not
awesome.
just a jack of all trades in property management. You have to be like a master of all trades.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense. Can you share a particularly challenging, situation you faced as a property manager and how you resolved it the best that you could have?
Um, there's always challenging situations. Like almost all of them are challenging, right? Balancing budgets and
Yeah.
dealing with projects and stuff that's challenging. I think probably some of the hardest things that we have to deal with are bureaucracies,
Mm,
bureaucracies from outside, right? So utility companies have a very bureaucratic approach to the way they deal with things.
yeah.
um, I once had a property where the gas meters for two of the units were flipped. One was a one bedroom unit, and the other one was a two bedroom with a big family in it. And the lady in the one bedroom was a senior, and she she did not use much natural gas, but her bill was the one for the family, right? So she was paying for this for years, and
Wow.
as she was going through it, she realized, and she's like, this can't be my bill. She had her furnace down to almost nothing, and she would just kind of huddle around her stove for warmth, and it was awful. So I said that, you're absolutely right. That can't be your utility bill. Let's
Yeah.
find out what the problem is. There's no
Yeah.
leak or anything. So we had the gas company out time and time and time and time again, and dealing with them and going through sitting on hold for hours because you call in and it's like, oh, now you're 15th in line. We'll get to you in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It turns into 2 hours trying to explain the problem and getting passed from department to department. Um, yeah, dealing with the bureaucracy is that's a challenge. We did get it resolved, and she did
Yeah.
get her refund or credit.
Oh,
The
that's good.
the family in the two-bedroom unit wasn't very happy.
Did it have to get passed on to them, that cost? Like, did they?
He billed back, I think, for a year's worth of
Okay.
uh, the consumption, but nothing beyond that. So I
Yeah.
mean, it was better than it could have been, I
No
suppose.
kidding. No kidding. Yeah, that's a good story. I mean, it sounds like you did everything you could to solve it. And yeah, I mean that's out of your control. I mean, how do you catch that? Like that's
The
a unique circumstance, that's for sure.
person you invested in it, right? Then you really want to nail down and figure it out. It's like a
Yeah.
puzzle.
Yeah,
Get
totally.
involved.
Yeah, awesome. Well done in solving that. That's great. Um, so I have to ask the question, assuming janitorial is, one of your largest ongoing costs for your properties, take the reserve fund budgets and stuff, but for the ongoing work, I assume it's one of your largest. How do you look for janitorial companies to work with? What qualities in a company are you generally looking for?
Well, you know that I love you guys.
Thank you.
Um, I love your approach to managing janitorial, right? And I think, we've worked closely in the past, and your big thing is getting the right people in place to do the
Yeah,
job.
yeah,
Um, it's funny because condo boards, like I said, they're always looking at the bottom line, and it's easy to bring a contract to them or a bunch of quotes to them where you have contractor A, B, and C, and they look at the bottom line and they're like, well, C. And then you have to explain to them, you can have C, but it's not the same as A, right?
yeah, yeah,
Hopefully with the vendor management programs in place, you're going to see things even out more. And when you do your requests for proposals, you specify what you want in it. But even then, it comes down to the quality of the people that you have doing it.
yeah, yeah. Awesome, awesome. Thanks for that. And by the way, this wasn't meant for you to promote me in any way, but thanks for the compliment. And we love working with you with unit management and other properties as well. So it's been a great relationship.
Uh,
Um, awesome. If you could manage any famous property in the world, which one would it be and why?
I was thinking about this, like how many famous properties are there? There's like the Eiffel Tower, the Guggenheim.
Yeah,
I don't know. I like malls. I might want to try a mall.
cool.
Maybe I don't want to manage Chinook. That sounds like a freaking nightmare, but maybe
Yeah,
Excel Center would be fun because
yeah,
you
yeah,
get different clients in or tenants in that are all really interesting, and you'd feel really proud and have a lot of ownership over it.
yeah.
And the mall would be interesting because it's quite complex.
Totally complex. Yeah, we were just actually at West Edmonton Mall for a few days. Just got back, and the whole time I was there, I was imagining, how do you run this operation? They have Galaxyland, the water park, and all these different attractions within the mall, and what an amazing facility that is. And ironically, my wife was in Tim Hortons line, and she just started chatting with the gentleman behind her, and it happened to be the facility manager for the mall. So divine intervention. I'm hoping to get him on the show now. So
That's awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
no, I wouldn't want to manage anything quite that. That sounds like so much work.
yeah.
I
Oh,
would like a nice, quiet, easy property. That's
right.
one. That's
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. No, great. And then my last question is, if you could recommend a book to your fellow property managers, what would that book be? You got lots of nice ones. Oh, look at that.
my God. So John Corona, I should tell you, Magnum York was purchased by Associa not very long ago, a couple of years ago. And Associa is the largest property management company in North America. They have thousands of offices across the US, some in Canada, and some in Mexico. And
Yeah.
John Corona, who started that company, wrote a couple of books now, and it's called In the Common Interest.
Okay.
For property management wonks, this is really what you want to go to.
Awesome. Amazing.
But for
Amazing.
fun books, I wouldn't, for fun books, I would say maybe The Institute by Stephen King.
Oh yeah, okay. And that's so that's not for property managers. That's
That's
just
just for fun.
for everybody. Nice. Awesome. Awesome.
If
Amazing.
you're a property management nerd, probably John Corona's Common Interest in the Common Interest books.
Very cool. And can you touch a little bit on like what are some of the points that kind of stood out in your mind in that book? Anything in particular? Or
Well, of course, it's a little bit different because he is coming from the perspective of in the United States. A lot of it is gated communities and homeowner associations, but it's really about community living, right? Like so much. And he gets into what the economics of it are, which is interesting. But it's a lot about how best to structure a community. And we don't see that as much in Canada. Some condominiums are really good at it because they get people in there that want to have a community and be part of a community, and they really embrace it and promote it.
yeah,
That's something that I think more condominiums should do, right? Really promote the community aspect of your property.
yeah, yeah,
Like, they don't have enough energy to focus on it, but I think those that do, their properties are better run.
yeah,
Their residents are happier.
yeah,
They have fewer problems. They know right away too when something goes wrong, right? Like if a cleaner in your world, if a cleaner isn't performing, they know about it right away. The feedback gets to the property manager right away, and then we deal with it right away, right? Whereas properties that are more lackadaisical and don't have that community spirit or atmosphere, things can go unnoticed for weeks or
yeah,
months and
yeah.
sometimes even years, right? Because people don't care. They walk
Hmm.
every day, they'll see, a hole in the wall or a problem starting or a little bit of a leak, and they're like, I don't care. I'm not reporting it. It's not my problem. I'm too busy. Or
Yeah.
they just don't feel that sort of community ownership.
Amazing, amazing. What are some of the things? Sorry, we're delving into this, but if you don't mind, but what are some of the things that that create a community? Can you give an example of how you foster that environment?
Um, well, Wedgwoods, right, out in
Yeah,
Discovery.
yeah,
That's a huge property, but
yeah,
they have an extraordinarily strong sense of community. And it came from the people that lived there, people that had time to be a little bit more social. It's not just, your neighbors aren't just people that you don't know. You
yes,
have to get to know them. Who are you? Where did you come from? Let's get to know each other, and then from there it spreads out, right? And it gets even further, right? So then they know the local businesses that are around there. Let's
yes,
all have dinner at the local restaurant, or let's meet there. Let's get food in from there.
yeah.
Let's employ this local landscaping company, right? And it's
It's amazing. I love
yeah,
that. And can that come from the property manager, or does that need to come from the board, or maybe both?
bit of both, a bit of both. Like I try and encourage that. You saw that at Pierce
Yeah,
Gardens.
yeah.
Really more and more of a sense of community as we went on,
Yes,
right?
yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And it's
awesome. And you're yeah,
partially the residents, and it's getting a cooperative property manager too, right? Because sometimes those community oriented properties can be a little bit more of a challenge to manage. You
right.
will get people, on it all the time and calling and complaining, and sometimes
Mm.
they may seem annoying, but
Right,
in reality, they're making your lives easier.
right. They're more engaged. They're more
They're
engaged. Yeah,
The hardest boards to manage are the ones that aren't engaged, the ones that don't give you any feedback about how things are going, and then all of a sudden you find out they're really mad about something that they haven't talked to you about for months or
totally,
years. Like, well,
totally.
we always hated this. Like, if you said something, we would have done it
Yeah,
differently.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Well, yeah, I mean, Magnum York is certainly really fortunate to have Jennifer MacFarlane on their team, running the Calgary branch, and
Happy to be.
um,
I love it.
yeah, no, for sure. You guys, like it's they have a real winner, and someone that really understands the industry. So I'm really grateful for you coming on the show. That's for sure.
Thank you for
You know,
inviting me. This is
yeah,
really fun.
yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, and I look forward to continuing to our great conversations offline as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jennifer.
Thank you.